Yeah, last year you guys raised 1.3 million. Mm-hmm. That was nice.
Yeah.
Where did you guys donate it to?
Alzheimer's was a big one, Alzheimer's Association, and they actually called us. I tweeted about it recently. They called us to tell us like where they put the money.
Oh,
And it made me pretty emotional, especially they put it towards a program to help train police to better deal with Alzheimer's patients. Because that's one of the hardest things, right? Is like your loved one is either putting themselves or other people in danger.
we're spending money to train the police not to
Yeah,
kill people with
I mean-
Alzheimer's. Like, what a waste of fucking money.
I'd
And not
rather
that they
someone
don't need
do
but
it.
like, fuck the police.
Yeah, it's fucking
Like,
scary.
let's like, no, it's better spent telling these fucking hostile freaks not to kill.
No, yeah, I
instead of
agree.
research.
But like, if your loved one has a knife and they're scared and they don't know what's going on,
So
your
we need to
only
tell
option
them,
is
don't
the cops.
shoot. We
Yeah,
need to
literally.
teach them.
I'm not even
What
kidding.
it looks like to see someone with Alzheimer's.
And how to de-escalate. So that program has started,
Idiots.
which is so important because
It's so weird.
that's one of my biggest nightmares for sure. Is like having to like
Yeah, it happens a lot. People with Alzheimer's are, I don't know if there's a statistic out there, but her dad had like plenty of encounters with the police because he'll wander out of the house.
Yeah.
He'll, you know, and it's really hard in that period where you haven't been officially diagnosed because he's going to be going through his normal routines and then somewhere along that routine, he'll branch off and go somewhere maybe he shouldn't.
Well, even when he was diagnosed, it's hard, right? Because you don't want to take their freedom away, right? Like once you get diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it's not like all of a sudden like boom, you have Alzheimer's, right? So my dad, up until like the very end before we had to like put child locks on the doors, like would walk to the local mosque every Friday. It was so important and it was ingrained in his head like I need to go to the mosque. So we would let him go because he would always go and he would always come back and the community like really looked out for him. One day he went and he just never came back. And we were like, okay, holy shit, like this is it, you know, like, and we had to call the police. He was gone for 7 hours. I was so embarrassed because I ended up tweeting it out because I was so scared. And one of the fans, followers on my Twitter was working at Safeway and my dad was actually there. He was eating the food out of Safeway and people were like, that was just weird. So security grabbed him and the fan messaged me on Twitter and was like, hey, I have your dad. When I went to go pick him up with my mom, I kept saying to myself like, don't cry, don't cry. And I get there, my dad looks at me and he goes, what's wrong? And I just started like bawling. Just couldn't handle it at all. It was so hard. And that was kind of like me realizing like, that's it, you know, like that's when you have to like put locks on the doors. But in that transitionary period when, you know, you might have to use the cops, like it's so terrifying to be like, I don't know what they're going to do when they encounter my dad, especially because my dad's not old looking. So he's just, you know, people would be like, oh, he's acting kind of weird for someone who looks like they're in their early 50s.
Is that how, or is he passed or is he still?
No, he's very happy. I mean, I'm very thankful that my mom like fully takes care of him and my brother's super supportive, my older brother. I get a lot of really sweet videos. He's doing well. He's kind of like stabilized, right? Because like sometimes you'll be like pretty stable and then you'll have like a massive decline. But he's been pretty stable. He's still around.
He's got a funny orangutan stuffed animal he likes.
Yeah, he loves his
so
orangutan stuffed animal. My mom's always sending pictures. He loves the cat.
He's in a good mood.
Oh, he's always in a
that's
good mood.
nice.
Yeah.
But not all people with Alzheimer's will be in a like a happy state.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll be really aggressive because they're confused,
Scared.
or that's just what they're a little bit more predisposed to be like.
Right.
And you can't control it.
There was like a huge Alzheimer's breakthrough recently. Did
Yeah.
you follow that?
Yeah.
Where they realized like all the research they were doing for the past 30 years was like based on something totally wrong.
We did talk. We actually, when that came out, we went to the Alzheimer's Association that day because they wanted to thank us. And we brought that up, and they actually said that it was way overblown and actually not
Really?
true. Yeah.
Really?
Which made us feel way better because I was terrified. Because my dad was part of the trials that, because we started doing injections to work on breaking the plaques down that they believe are, causing
Is
Alzheimer's.
that like experimental treatment?
It was in human testing. It was in the last round of human testing.
Okay.
And it was working really well on my dad.
Really?
Yeah,
You
it was.
saw that he was getting better?
Yes. And
Really?
what happened was I went to go see Ian and stay with him for 5 or 6 months, and I got a phone call. Or I called my house, and my dad answered my phone, and he was completely different. He had like totally declined. And I guess what happened was, so you either get sucks. My dad wanted to do this, right? It was like his choice fully, but you either get the proper dosage, you get double dosage, or you get no dosage at all. That's
Right.
how these things work.
Right.
My dad ended up having a brain bleed from the injections. So they had to take him off. So he was doing really great. And then his brain started to bleed, and they said, no, we can't do this anymore. And maybe like 4 months after that, he just totally
When you say
declined.
he was doing better, how did that show itself?
He even was driving. Like he was like really, like it had staved it off, right? Because when you get early diagnosis for Alzheimer's, it's like when, like there's small things happening, right? Like my dad was still coaching and driving, and sometimes it would almost be like he was transported into another situation, and he would say something that was totally out of pocket, and you'd be like, what? Like, where'd that come from? So when he was diagnosed, like, he was in that state. And then he started to kind of decline. And then he started up on these injections, and it plateaued.
Okay.
And even got a little bit better. Like,
And your dad was aware of that?
Yeah. This was when he was like, that's I think the shittiest thing about Alzheimer's, like, diagnosis for a lot of people is, like, you get diagnosed when, like, you're being, like, you're still like very with it when you get diagnosed. So he was with it. I mean, he flew to his injections on his own. He would get his John Grisham books, really like those like lawyer books, and he would read on the plane to go to Kelowna to get these injections. And that was like a year before he started to really decline. So in that year, he was like on it for about 5 months, 6 months, and then they were like, we got to pull you off. And then that 4 months, it was like just a total nosedive.
That sucks.
It was really hard, but it made me feel better knowing that the trials are not totally void, that is kind of, it was like misinterpreting the story and the data to make it a bit more sensationalized. And these injections that are, helping work through plaques are helping people, and they're pretty happy with the results. Half of our donation went to new trials that are going on and helping people, which is huge.
Yeah. That's one of the most fucked up, scary.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's like
So scary.
you mourn it, right? You're like, okay, I've lost my dad, and then something new happens, and then you gotta like mourn it.
Go through it again. It's equally scary to be on like either side of that equation.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's so both is just I don't know. It's so rough.
Is dad
really
available?
good game.
Speaking of Alzheimer's. Speaking of Alzheimer's, let's bring in
literally
dad's
bring
old
it
ass. Yeah.
I literally just typed that too.
Oh, funny.
That's funny.
Let's get that
Were you
thing.
piping him in? Like,
Yeah, he's here. He's on
Yeah,
the phone.
hold on. Let me get him in here.
Run to the
It
back.
took him a while to do the tech support because he's fucking old. He's got that
Yeah, he
AOL
doesn't
dial-up.
understand computers or technology.
That sucks. That's horrible. Scary.
Can't get up.
Feel bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring down the
yeah, you're killing the
vibe.
vibe.
You're killing the
It's supposed to be
vibe.
a fun podcast only.
I think it's important because I've gone through the same situation. I'm sure a lot of people are out there, and it's nice to feel that you're not alone, that
Yeah.
you've been through it. So
Thank you, AB.